Okay, so we'll do now the final Mamer in Likutei Torah, the 11th Mamer in Parshas, the final Mamer of Voeschanan, the portion of Voeschanan. This is Mamer 11, and this is also a hemshich to the posuk of Ahafta es Hashem Elikecha that we say in the Parshas Shema and the Parshas Voeschanan, explaining the Ahafta es Hashem Elikecha. Now, over here in the Mamer, he explains. He starts off explaining how Ahava is usually a level of chesed, a level of giving, because love is the root for the chesed. Chesed brings love, so they're associated. So the first parsha of Shema, which it says "Va'ahavta es Hashem Elikecha," that's considered to be the level of chesed. And then on the other hand, the second parsha of Shema, over there it says "Yishomru lachem penifta," there's punishment, be careful. That's considered already more gevura. That's really stringent. So the first parsha is chesed, and then is gevura. But then, when you look at the names, the shemus of Hashem is associated with these parshas. So we know that the first parsha has the shem mab, membeis, which means the name of Hashem, which comes into the number 42. 42 usually is connected to the level of gevura. And the Shem Ab, which is 72, is connected with the Shem Chesed, and that is associated in the Kabbalah with the Shema. So it seems just the opposite, that on one hand, we say this is Ava, this is Chesed, Shema, and this is Gevura. And in the Shemus, it's different. The first parsha is Gevura, and the second parsha is Chesed. When you look at the Shemus, Mab, and Membeis and Ayin Beis. But the Rebbe explains over there that in the Kabbalah there's a concept of that they change their places, like the Chesed comes down into Gevura, the Gevura comes down to Chesed. So the Kelim of the first parsha is Take Chesed. The Kelim of the second parsha is Gevura, but the Oir is the Oir HaGevura and Kli HaChesed and Kli HaChesed. Well, that's going to go through the whole explanation. Let's look inside. Hine, Mevahavto Ad you have the 42 letters. Since it's the 42 letters, that's the level of Mab. That's 42. Parsha Shniya is Shem Ayin Beis. Over there is the name Ayin Beis. There's more than 72 letters in the Shema. Up till a certain point, there's 72. But in the Kabbalah, they associate the Parsha, the second Parsha, with the name Ab. Ba'ayin, Bezoyer, Chelik Beis, Truma, Kuflam Beis, Beis, and Pardes. Sharchov Aleph Perivov Perigud Beis. Okay, so over there you see that Shem Mab is in the first parsha, and the Shem Ab Ayin Beis is in the second parsha. So in Neida, it's known Shem Mab Hu B'Gvura. The name of Mab Beis, which comes out, that's the level of Gvura. The Shem Ab B'Chesed, and the problem is over here it seems just the opposite, because mitzad the union of Ma'abig Gvura kiparsha the shloim the kriya Shema he bechinas Chesed. The first portion of Shema is in the level of Chesed, because you say va'ahavta, that's the level of Ava, which is the level of Chesed. Parsha Shniya yishomru lachem, be careful, that's chulu b'Gvura, that's the level of Gvura. And you see this also as explained also in the idea, the order of the parshas. You have the four parshas in the Torah. You have the parshas Kaddish, the Hoyok, Kiviyacha. Those are the four portions that are in the Tefillin. So the first parsha is Kaddish, the second parsha is Hoyok, Kiviyacha. Then you have Shema, and then you have Oyim Shemoya. Those are the order. So what is the order of the parsha? So Kaddish is Chochma, and V'hoya Kivyach is Bina, Shema is Chesed, and V'hoyim Shemoya is Gevura. So you see in this order of the parshas, Gevura means Seder parshas, that Kaddish, V'hoya Kivyach, Shema, V'hoyim Shemoya. So in these four parshas, so you have this idea of Chochma, Bina, Chesed, and Gevura. Kaddish v'hoya kiviyacha, and they have Shema and V'hoim Shemoya. Sheheim Chesed Chochma Bina Chesed Gvura. And how does it go? It goes in that order. It goes Kadesh b'Chochma, and V'hoya Kivyacha is Bina. Shema is Chesed, and V'hoya Shemoya. So here Shema is Gvura. So you see also that Shema and V'hoya Shemoya Chesed Gvura. So how come the Shemab is Gevura is in the Parsha Rishona and Shemab is Chesed is in the Parsha Shniya? But the idea is we find in the Zohar with regard to the Oiris, the Achlifu Duchtayu. They changed their places. V'achlilu Smola b'Yimina. And they include the left into the right. Basically, you can have the Oir HaChesed come down into the Kli HaGevura, and they include the left, the Smoil, into the right, into the Oir HaChesed. Beautiful. What's the explanation? Shenischal for Oir is b'Bechinas Kelehem. That the Oiris changed, was swapped around in the level of their Kelim. Normally, Oir HaChesed should be in the Kli HaChesed. Or the Eirag would be in Kli Gvura. Here they swapped it around. So Eirag Chesed Shoyre b'Kli HaGvura, Eirag Gvura b'Kli HaChesed. So you have the Eirag Chesed, which would be the name of Ayin Beis, which is the name of Chesed, would be b'Kli HaGvura in V'hoim Shemoya. Eirag Gvura, which is the Shemab, will be b'Kli HaChesed. I'm Izeba Ramaz Parsha Sadik Parsha Sav B'Dav Chav Zayin Ukiniskar Mizeh B'Biur Aposik Levavtan. V'Hochin Nami B'Beis Parsha Seder. The same thing is over here in these two parshas that we're dealing about over here. The Parsha Rishonah B'Chinas Chesed B'Chinas Kelim. First parsha is Chesed B'Chinas Kelim, which is V'Ahavta is B'Chinas Kli HaChesed. After is a beginner's level of chesed. B'shem ha'bigvura. And then you have the name of Membeis, which is bigvura. So that would be hu oira gvura hashoyre b'kli ha'chesed. That would be the light of gvura, which is in the chesed. Parsha Shniya. And the second parsha is Shem Ab. That is the Ab. The Ab is the Eirach Chesed in the second parsha. All right, that's just the general idea. So understand this idea is Yesh Levayir Tchilo Inyan Yichudei Lo v'Yichidat Hato, the two levels of the upper level of Yichud and the lower level of Yichud, which is in the first verse of Shema Yisrael. That's the level of Yichudei Lo. And Baruch Shem Kived Malchusei Leilam Vod, which is Yichudei Tato. So the Hine, Tevas Hashem Elokeinu, we say Shema Yisrael. So we're saying Hashem Elokeinu. So what does it mean that pasuk Elokeinu? Shebe pasuk Rishon Dekriya Shema. Pirush HaArizal. So the Arizal explained Shezahu Inyan. That means that we bring down the light of the Ein Sof. We bring it down in Chochma Bina Vatzilus. That is Havaya Elokeinu. V'nikra, and that is called the Yichud Avo, the union of Chochma Bina. I'll explain it now. That's what that result says. So the result says when you say Hashem Elokeinu, that means that you bring down the light of Hashem in Chochma Bina of Atzilus, which is called Yuchava. Or Pirush. What does it mean? Hine Ishtalshlus v'Isavus Ma'ayin Liyesh Tzorich Liyes Tamid. The continuous evolution of the world and creation, that needs to be all the time. Moshe Kosuv B'chinuch Kotten. Now, Chinuch Kotten is actually the introduction of the Tanya of Shari Yichud Amuna. They call it Chinuch Kotten. So this, I'm not sure why the Alter Rebbe refers to the Chinuch Kotten here. We'll see in a minute when he wants to talk about the second perek. He says Beferish Sharichot V'Amuna, but he writes over here the Chinuch Kotten. I saw in the notes in the Likutei Torah that he means the Sharichot V'Amuna. Anyways, what does it say over there? Over there, it talks about the fact that there has to be continuously the creation of Ayin L'Yesh. It always has to be. So when we talk about the Eibshter has to always create constantly from Ayin to Yesh, is V'lo Ayin L'Yesh Gashmi V'Lvad. We're not talking about physically. So you have a physical item, so that comes from Ayin, that this has to always be made into physicality from the Ayin. Kimoi, like for example, the Zayin Rikim, the Oretz, as for example, the 7 Rikim, the Oretz, it's Sorich Liyas, Mischatshim B'chol Shov V'Rekem Ayin Liyesh. They need to be continuously renewed every hour, every instant. They need to be Ayin Liyesh. That's not the only thing. But over there, it's obvious. Had the energy that vitalizes them stopped, they would turn into nothing, zero. There would be nothing. Just like before the 6th day of creation. The Sefer Shebeinu Chelik Beis, as it says in the Tanya, in the second, this is the Shari Yichud Amuna. So again, before he says it, the Chinuch Kotten, but over here it says clearly the Sefer Shebeinu Chelik Beis, this part of there. But he says, so this is Begashmis. Just like we have Begashmis, like we can Gamkin, like we can Mamish Gamba, so the same thing exactly. This is the upper world. It needs to be continuous ischachus, not just in the Gashmis, but the Elmus. Even for it to be the level of Chochmah, not Tzilus, there needs to be a continuous energizing flow from the Ein Sof into the level of Chochmah. Because here Chochmah from Keser, from higher, is in the way of Ayin, Ma'ayin Liyesh, that it comes from Ayin. So you need to constantly bring down the level, create and bring down the level of Chochmah, make a level of Chochmah. And from the level of Chochmah, Nimshach Bibina. From it comes down into Bina. Shenikra B'chinas Yesh. So you have Me'ayin Liyesh. So Chochmah is not yet a full Yesh. So you take from Ayin, and then you bring it down to Bina. So you go, Chochmah and Bina go together. Chochmah takes from Ayin, and when it gets to Bina, it gets a Yesh. As we say, Laharan Chil Oya Vayesh, we have the Gan Eden, that's from the Hasoga, that comes from Bina. That is already considered to be a Yesh. Because we're saying now that it's a continuous recreation, this is also why it says that there is a river that flows from Eden. So normally, Eden means Eden is considered Chochmah. Nahor is Bina, Recheves Hanor. But we say Yoitze Loshen Tmidis. It continuously comes out because I'm Shochem Ayin Liyesh. It comes from higher also Chochmah, but Ayin Liyesh Trein Rein Levis Parshim. These are two friends that they never separate. Chochmah and Bina always go together. So basically, from the Chochmah, it always goes to Bina. From the Ayin that comes from higher than Chochmah to the Yesh. So basically, what it's trying to say is that even the level of Chochmah needs constantly an infusion. It's also Me'ayin Liyesh. And that's why it's constantly Yoitze. It's constantly coming out because it has a continuous Hamshacha to bring it into the level. Both Chochmah and Bina, the Trei together. So, Asher Bora Elikim Lasi. So there's two things. Hashem created, and then to make. So there's two steps. Bora Likim is the level of spiritual. Lasis is to make the physical. The Pirush Asher Bora Zahu Yesh Ma'ayin Ruchni. Bora means Yesh Ma'ayin Ruchni, because even the Ruchni is Yesh Ma'ayin, which says Bechinas V'Chochma Ma'ayin Temotze. Like we say Chochma Ma'ayin Temotze, so there is a spiritual Yesh Ma'ayin. Lasis, and from them later on it extends to become lasis. That comes from ayin to yesh gashmi. So there's the two steps in the ruchnis itself. First, you have the creation of yesh ma'ayin and chokhmah. Then you need to create the physicality, the side of the kiva. Or it's all the gashmis. That's the bechinas ma'ayin yesh gashmi. Why are we saying Chokhmah seems to be on a very high level? We're still saying it's Yesh Mi'ayin. It has to be created like something from nothing. It's Kenoida, because as it's known, that the essence of the blessed light of the Sof is exalted and higher than the definition and the level of Chokhmah Ilah. But even the level of Chokhmah Ilah is way lower. The Ein Sof is much higher. So Chokhmah Ilah ain't a rechel of klal. That the Chokhmah Ilah, the supreme Chokhmah Atzilus, still has no comparison, no value next to Hashem, because we say Va'antu Chad v'lo b'choshbon. There is one, but he's not one that is counted, which means you can't count him into the counting. Pirush Va'antu Chad v'lo b'choshbon. Pirush she'ein areichulu, there is no comparison, and therefore K'moshe is boher le'il b'maskulin in Krishma. V'lav mikol idan v'lav mikol idan midas yiu klal. Hashem is not all these measures of Hashem, which includes over here also the level of Chokhmah. They're not at all. Hashem is not at all kind of associated. It's a lachzol, but this is just to lead the world with them, as they continues there in the Pasuk Aliyah, but not the Eibishter himself is much higher. So in order to bring down, you are a Chochem, which is the level of Chokhmah Ilah, the level of Chokhmah Atzilus. Pirush, Ant, what do we mean, Ant here? You is the Chad v'lo b'choshbon. The Pirush of Ant over here is the level of Bechinas Chad v'lo b'choshbon. That's the level of Chad and in the world of Cheshbon. That is Nimshach or Mislavish Bechinas Chokhmah Ilah. That extends and dresses up Chokhmah Ilah. And Zahu Ashpola Yivirido. This is a lowering and a descent. Zahu Anvasunusay. This is the humility of the Eibishter. So basically, he's telling you now that you have a level of Abaya Likeinu that you have to bring down the Yichud Avo, to bring down the light in Chokhmah Bina Atzilus all the time. So you need, in order to get that light that needs to come down all the time, we say that it needs Me'ayin Temotz, it needs to constantly be Nimshach, is that's why you need it to happen. So the Chaliyah is has Arusov. So in its own, the light would not come down because it's a tremendous descent, and therefore you need to draw the light down. So you need an arousal from below to arouse, to wake up this descent and this extension. But there it says in the Zohar, in the beginning when the Eibishter created the world, so over there everything came from Hashem himself, because you didn't need this Arusa de Latata in order to bring about this Arusa de Leila. It came from Hashem himself. So Bereishu Menachula Hoya Me'ela Memela. Over there, it was by itself. Katzolik Berusa. The Eberster went up into the Rotzin of Hashem. And that was because Hashem was kindness. So it came on its own. So all the Hamshachas Melmailo came on its own from Hashem, initiated by Hashem, by Abba. But now it hinges on bringing up the feminine water, meaning the Selus Lotatu. Okay. And therefore, what do we do this? And this bringing up this feminine waters, the Selus Lotatu, Zuhi bi Kriya Shema. And that is when we're doing the Shema. Then it doesn't happen on its own now. Now we say Shema, we bring it down from Ayin to Yesh. Because what do we say? So then you say Havaya Elikenu. Havaya Elikenu. Cool. Pirush. What do we? Mash'onu Masiyim. This that we understand. The Yeshi Chelis be Sichlenu. And our intellect has the ability, that it can grasp, it can reach, it can capture an idea. That comes from Havaya. So it comes from Havaya, which is higher, comes from Ma'ayin. The way Chochmah comes, it comes Me'ayin, which means it's not in an orderly way, which is only Yesh Me'yesh, but it's Yesh Me'ayin. It comes from a much higher place. Much Enki Chochmah L'Gabi B'chinas Keser, but we do Chochmah L'Gabi Keser, that's Yesh Me'ayin, it's not Yesh Me'yesh. V'ayim HaShekos B'zav Di Ramaskal Posik Al Yod, Parsha Vayera, B'bira Posik Mimona. So what is the Pshat Havaya L'Keinu? B'chinas Chochmah Zui, B'chinas Havaya, Hamahava Liyez, B'chinas L'Keinu Ma'ayin L'Yesh. That level of Chochmah, that is the level of Havaya, is L'Keinu, to be in the level of L'Keinu that is Ayin L'Yesh, from nothingness into existence. Is Hashem Elokeinu. So that means they come to get from higher than from level of Keser into Elokeinu, basically into the Yesh. V'ayim HaShekos B'ira Posik L'Dashi B'Seich B'ira Posik Yinosi Me'inyan Hamshach Hazu Sheb'Krishma Shehu Hamshach Hazu Kol Shayim Shom. L'chein Magdimim Loimar Shema Yisrael. That's why we start first to say Shema Yisrael, which is Hialos Man Mata L'Maylo. That is the level of bringing up Mata L'Maylo, Shema Yisrael. That's the, and then we get Hashem Elokeinu to be Mamshech. So Shema Yisrael, that's the Hialos Man Mata L'Maylo. The Mahamshich is Galu Seidin Sobaruchu Be'avaim, so that it should come down in Chochmah and be in Avaim. Shazov Mashkosov Achakach Hashem Elokeinu. So Shema Yisrael is the Haloah, Hashem Elokeinu is the Hamshachah. Oh, so now why is Shema Yisrael the Haloah? What is the Haloah span? What is Shema Yisrael? B'hainu, Shema is Shem Ayin. Shema is put together of the two words Shem Ayin. Ayin is 70. 70 represents the midos when they're in a high level, because then there's 7, each one included from 10, midos, and 70. That's why you got 7 times 10 is 70. So Shem Ayin means the name of 70, the name of midos. Those are the mocker of midos. Shem Ayin, Ayin Rabosi, a large Ayin. Umoker Hamidus. That is the source of the midas. When we say Ayin Rabosi, That's the source of midas. The Hainu, which means Kishamidis Haim the Seichel. That is when the midas are in the intellect. Before the midas, before the emotions come out into the emotions, they're emotionally as they are in the Seichel. And each one of the 7 midas included from 10 is 70. That one. Sha'oz heim b'chinas godless. So then the midas are on a great, on a big, on a large level. As opposed to when they become actual midas, and that is after they come down to the heart. Then they are on a low level because they're very limited already. And they don't have any comparison to when they are in the intellect. Says then when they're in the seichel, then the fear and love are much more force. That's why now we call them, when they come to actual midas, they're called ze'er anpin, small faces. They have been diminished and they become small, because relative to the ayin, the godel, to the midas, the way they're in the seichel, they're small. Now, over here, I believe begins the parentheses, because the parentheses end after this. You can see by Rabbi, so I think there's no parenthesis over there, but here, I mashikos with the Ramaschel, as kabani lachmi beinyan atzomis gidin ubasar, mashikos with parsha habrocha in zeis habrocha aposik, but also berivi veiskodesh. I am the Zoya, Rish Parsha Vayikra, Parsha Struma, Dafuf, Lamed Beis, Minyan, Atfid, Rabrabin, Atfid Zayri, the big letters, the small letters, I am Ashakosu, Aposik, Vayikra, Moshe, Minyan, Aleph, Zayri, Aleph, Rabrabin, the small and the large. Because here we're talking about the ayin, how the ayin is the long and the large one, so he references you to the whole idea that it discusses what is the big letters in the Torah and small letters in the Torah. So, now we know that, so we said that the Shem Ayin is the mocker of the midas. So, so what is Shema? Is Shem Ayin. Man, the Mekoir Hamidis, who are Yidei B'chinas Shem. So how do you bring up the Mayim Nukvin, the Sarusa de Latata, Shema, the Sarusa de Latata, to the source of the midas, to the level of the midas, the way they are in Chokhmah, in level of godless. So you do it through the level of shame. What is the meaning, the level of shame? You do it through the working with all the gashmisdike things that we do, and we turn them into avodas Hashem. That's how Shema, we get up to the Shem Ayin. Why? What is it? The Hainu, the Shem is 340. If you take the Hainu Rapach Netzutzim, 288 sparks, together in Shem Ban, together 52. So 248 and 52 equals 340. Kishem Ban hu Amayle Bechinas Rapach Netzutzim, because the name of Ban, of Hashem's name Ban, that elevates the 288 sparks enough that have fallen through the breaking of the vessel. Is called Yonam Gashmi, to vitalize all physical matters that comes from the name of Ban. So Ban, therefore, together with the Rapach, is Shem. Rapach Netzutzim halolu Shem Achayish Shem Chol in Yonam Gashmi. These 288 sparks, which is the energy of all physical matters, they go up through the name Ban, which is Malchus Hamevarer Chulu That's Sheba, that's Machum Varer. And where do you bring it up? You bring it up, B'chinas Ayin Rabosi. You bring it up to the Ayin, to the large Ayin, which is Mekoides Hamidas, the source of the Midas. Shemehem Hamshochas Arapachni Tzutzim Hanal. That from them come the 28 sparks. Basically, he's saying this comes through the avodah of halos hanitzutzim. That is, we come to Shema. That's the halot to get later on Havaya Lekein. There's another reason why Shema, why it's called Shem Ayin. Loshoin Shem Mamish. It's actually a name. The name Loshon of Shem. Not here we're saying it's Shem because there are Pachnetzutzis and the Shem Ban together equals Shem. Actually, the name. Behainu Gam Mitzad the Sheir Shorshom Shelar Pachnetzutzim with the Shem Ban the Tikkun. Also, the root of the 288 is the Shem Ban the Tikkun. Shehu Hakoil Rak Mebchinas Shmei Yisborach Bilvad. It's all Aver's name. It's Shem. It's only a union of Shem. So the Ayin is still the same. The Ayin is still the level of the Midos. But the reason why it's Shem Ayin is because the level of Shem is the root of the 280 sparks and the Shem Ban of Tikkun. It all is Shem. It's all name of only a name. Because of Ki Ani Habayu Shmi. Ukenoida shekeser umemutza bein matzil. So it's even keser, even the ayin. It's also called only a name. It's a shame. That's the Sheir Shoshim. Ukenoida shekeser umemutza bein matzil and that Keser is an intermediate between the Maitzil Hashem and those that were Netzel. Venikra Malchus de Ein Sof, and we call it the Malchus of Ein Sof. So it's also like a level of Shem. Malchus de Ein Sof, which is China Shem Bilvad, that is only a name, a letter of a name. Shulius Isavos, Chinas Atzvilos. So that there should be the creation of the level of Atzilus, Ushvira v'tikkun, and that there should be the breaking and the correction. All this comes only from the name of Shem. This is Shmoi, Shemai. But Hashem's name doesn't fit at all. I didn't change. Ani himself, and I'm the first and the end. And the koydem hashvira, v'achar hashvira, whether it's before the breaking shuras hakelim, whether it's after the breaking, whether after the time of the correction, and everything will be finished. That's all equal. When we talk about the level of Ani Hashem is Lishanish, it makes no difference. That only touched the Eiros HaBaruch Hu, but not in the luminary himself. In the Moyer itself, there was no change. As for example, you have a cover and you have a cloud so you have the sun. The sun, it doesn't make a difference whether we get the sun or we don't get the sun. The sun shines. If you have a cloud that blocks it, the sun is still shining. To the Eibush, there is no difference. It's all a level of shame, whether there is kelim or not kelim, the recipient or not, doesn't make a difference. So like we have a cloud, which interrupts the light and the shine of the sun and makes it dark. It's not touch the essence and most of the shemesh. So now we're going back. So it's Shema Shemayim. That Shem U'Amayler Apoch Netzutzim La'ayin Rabosi. It brings it into the Ayin Rabosi. The Ayin Rabosi, this is the Moker Hamidas. Ibchinas Bina, Moker Hamidas. That's Bina, the source of the Midas. Shoyre Shah Mudai Malachim, which is the root of the 7 kings, Shenishberu, that were broken by Yimla Vayamas, as the Pasuk says. Shenishberu, as we say by Yimla Vayamas. Sheheim Hamalachim Shemolchu Be'eretz Edom. Which means Hibina. B'sham Noflu. So from there they fell. Hashem Hazeh. Then we say Shema. This shame brings them up. Brings up the 288 sparks of Shvira. The so they come really from the level of Bina, and you bring them back up, those Nitzutzim that are in Shvira, to the level of the Ayin Rabosi. And then you bring them up even higher. So first you bring them up to Bina, to the Ayin Rabosi, Shema. But what comes after Shema? Shema Yisrael. This is the elevation. Shema. The whole beer here is, why is it called Shem Ayin? But it's all the Ayin Rabosi, whether it's Shem, a connection, different interpretation, but it's all Shema to bring up the sparks, and then we go to Yisrael. Hello, Yosef, then you have a greater elevation. The B'chinas Yisrael. It becomes Shema Yisrael to level Yisrael. Ki, Kale, Yisra, Kale. So the Aleph Lamed, Hunihira de Chochmosai. That is the shine of Chochmah. Which goes to Bezoyer al Posik, Hashemayim Mesaprin Kvoid, Kale. They Shemaim Kvoid Kale. Chulu. The Yisrael, Oisye Shir Kale. Yisrael is made up from the Shir Kale. Shir Kale Chulu. Ba'ay Mashakosu B'Shir Hashirim, B'Biur HaPosik, Tzeno Eno, B'Inyan V'Yismechu, B'Cho Yisrael Mekadshei Shmecha, B'Biur HaPosik Yenosi, B'Chagvei Hasela, B'Inyan Yisrael Machshove, Mashakosu HaPosik B'Le'ro Omo B'Yisrael.